but the point of this is for you. So I want you to stand up for a second. So we teach life skills here. When you want to build a house, you have tools like a hammer, nails, screwdrivers. When you want to succeed in life, you need life skills. Things like confidence, communication skills, and something as simple as standing up straight, rolling your shoulders back, tucking your abs in. This shows presence and confidence. This does not, right? So if I walk up to someone and say, hey, Katie, nice to meet you, that's weak. But if I roll my shoulders back, hey, Katie, nice to meet you. Those are the things you'll need to get that job interview. Those are the things you need to get the promotion. So we always start the class off by applauding our students, but instead of going through every single student that we normally do, how come you're standing up, right? I just noticed Brian standing up.
Shouldn't I?
But
Because we're students.
But I want only the students to stand up and all the mentors to sit down. Anyone that's an adult is considered a mentor. So only students stand up. So every week we start the class in the same way. We applaud the students not for what you will do in the future, what you have done in the past. We applaud you simply for who you are. You're special, you're unique, you're talented, and so that's why we're here, to remind you. So instead of going through every single student, we're going to give you all a wild, amazing, raucous applause, because I want you to remember, before you go to bed tonight, remember why we're here. We love you, we care for you, we support you, but imagine a world where you got applauded just simply for who you are. And that's why we're here, okay? So for all the mentors that are here, all the staff that are here, make sure when I say the count of 3, we're going to applaud them. This is us showing love to you. So at the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Now students, you can sit down, please. Now you're all going to applaud me. No, I was kidding. All the mentors, please stand up. All the adults, please. So we could not do this program without all these amazing mentors. I say this all the time. You want to change your life? Change the relationships in your life. Every single one of these mentors are people that I admire deeply. So when you want to change your life, hang out with more people like the people you see here. So the count of 3, I want the students and everyone to please applaud our mentors. The count of 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, sit down, please. So we have a guest. We've been very fortunate to have literally 240 speakers, and like I said, when people ask us how do we choose our speakers, we choose based on what our students might want. So if let's say you want to meet an illustrator or graphic designer, or one time one of our mentors, Justine, we had a student that she wanted to be a ballet dancer, and so I'm like, hey Justine, can you come by? And so the whole goal is to give you, the students, your goal, your dreams, your hopes. Because whatever you're going through right now, it's a pit stop. Your future is not here. Your future is out there. And we invite people here, like Diana, to hopefully give you some inspiration and some guidance. And we're going to show a quick video of who this amazing woman is. And then we're going to start a basic interview.
Oh.
And,
No. Amazing's too strong. No.
Superwoman?
That'll do. Superwoman's good. Badass is good. Okay.
So the sound wasn't very high, but essentially there are 39 million people in California, 320 million people in America, 7.1 billion people in the world, and she's the only woman in the world to swim this far for 111 miles from Cuba to Florida. She was recently with President Obama in Cuba. But the reason why it's amazing that Diana's here is because it's about the story. So I was just going to go through a few slides and kind of just ask Diana, like, what were you thinking? What is it about? What did you learn? Because in life, whatever you're going through in life, whatever struggles you have, whatever obstacles you have, the analogy is this. If Diana is swimming and swimming and swimming, there's various challenges, but you can get through those things, and Diana's story exemplifies that. So let's just first give Diana some more love.
I don't know if, shall I?
Yeah.
I don't know if some of you younger kids know the word metaphor. Do you? Do you know what the word metaphor is, everybody? Well, let me tell you. It means you could have something real, something concrete. Like I was trying to get to the other shore. I was starting in Cuba, trying to go straight north for more than 100 miles and reach the other shore. But the other shore is also a metaphor, meaning it is really that beach. It's really that beach that was very far away. And with all those obstacles that were just brought up there, the jellyfish, the sharks, the currents. And by the way, that friend of mine, that best friend who was on the boat next to me, helping save my life when the box jellyfish happened, helping find a drop of courage when I was down and didn't think I had another one left, hugging me on the beach. That's Bonnie right there.
Let's give Bonnie some love.
So one of the lessons you learn, and I'm sure you guys are learning it here at the mission every day, every night while you're here, is that you can't do anything by yourself. You can be the strongest. Christopher will tell you this. He's a very successful guy, but he reaches out. He reaches out to his community. And no matter what you do in life, you need a team. So it looked like, when you saw the pictures of this, I was the only swimmer. I was the only one that the left arm and the right arm kept coming up. But without that team that never got paid a cent, that wanted to make history, that wanted to do something grand and show the world that if you just don't give up. I started this swim, this dream, when I was 28 years old, and I finished it when I was 64. So it was a dream of decades, of 35 years of trying and failing and trying and failing, trying and failing, and almost dying one time with the box jellyfish. But the metaphor of that other shore is that we all have another shore. Now, a lot of you guys, you're not getting the most fair start in life. I grew up with a family that was secure. I knew where the next meal was going to come from. I knew that I was going to go to a good school. I had a great start. You guys have gotten an unfair start. But here you are tonight with people who care about you, sitting all around you. People who are going to make sure that when you walk out this door in a week, in a month, in a couple of months, you feel possibilities for your young lives. You're going to make yourself anything you want to make. Where is it Marie? What comedian? Cherie, excuse me, Cherie. And I'm sure Cherie would stand up and tell you her story. She was right here where you are. And now she's a successful stand-up comedian, comic, beautiful, right? Am I right, Cherie? I say to people, I'll finish up with this so we can move on, Christopher, but a metaphor means that you have another shore. You have a shore that you want to reach to. Some people are fighting cancer, and the doctors told them, you don't have long. It doesn't look good. And that person goes back and finds their team, doctors and friends and family, and says, what can we do? Let's be intelligent. Let's read everything. Let's meet with everybody who knows about this kind of cancer. Let's get in there, roll up our shirt sleeves, let's fight it. Well, that's the other shore for that person, is to beat that cancer, get on the other side of it. Your job now is to think, you guys, what is your other shore? What do you want? What do you want when you walk out the door after all these loving people have helped you, and you're going to think of another shore that you want to reach? And I'll tell you something, you know why you'll get there? If you just don't give up. The first thing I said when I stumbled out on the beach after 53 hours of nonstop swimming, you can never touch the boat. I stood up and I said, I was tired, but I said, never, ever give up. So the people here at Union Mission are not giving up on you kids. You don't give up on yourselves. Find your other shore. Name it. What is it? What's the other shore for you? And you will get there.
I think that's applause. As an example too, like when you listen to Diana speak, she has such passion and focus and purpose in her voice. And when you share your own story in time, remember that example, because if you want to do better, just hang out with more people like Diana. And the beauty of the internet now, you can just watch videos. Before I met Diana in person about 6 months ago, I watched videos of her, and it's like just inspiring. So I'm just going to go through a few pictures. and I want to see if there's some lessons that Diana can share with us. And she doesn't know what these pictures are, so it'll be fun to see what her reaction is or is not. So, I read that your stepfather was Greek, Egyptian.
He wasn't my stepfather. He was my father.
Okay,
I grew up
your
with
father.
him. Yep.
And he told you about a story about how there are nymphs that would like swim around the lakes and rivers and oceans to protect the gods. Is that true? Is that how you got inspired by swimming?
My father was a Greek. He was raised in Egypt, but he was a Greek, and he was very dramatic. He was histrionic. He was an actor, not a real actor, just in his daily life. And the day I turned 5, he called me into the den. And over here on the desk, he had opened up Webster's big, fat, unabridged dictionary. It's like the biggest fat, like if you had it on its end, it'd be this fat. He had it opened up, and he had his hands resting on the pages. And he had tears standing in his eyes. I was 5. So, how old, what are you, like this? About 5? And I said, Dad, what's wrong with you? And he said, come here. He had spoke with a very thick accent. He had rolling R's and buzzing Z's. You could barely understand him. He said, come here. I have been waiting for this day, for you to turn 5. Because today is the day you are going to understand. The most important thing I will ever tell you. Come here, darling. And I came over. He said, your name, my name, the name of my people. It is in the bold black and white, the important book, the dictionary. Come here, I'm going to read for you. Now, my last name is Nyad, N-Y-A-D. That's his last name. And he pointed, and he read from the dictionary. Nyad. In Greek mythology, the nymphs that swam in the lake, a river, an ocean, a fountain to protect for the gods. But definition number 2, this is the one for you, darling. Nyad. Girl or woman, champion swimmer. Oh my God, this is your destiny, darling. So this was my father, very dramatic, and you can believe in destiny or not, but all I know is my name was in the dictionary, and I became a girl or woman marathon champion swimmer.
Isn't she awesome? All right, next slide.
Boy, I hope they all don't take that long, huh, Chris?
Way to go.
Yeah. No, we're good. We're good.
Tell us about the training that is required to swim 53 hours for 111 miles. This is an example. Like, what is that? What's like your daily habit?
Yeah, well, I think it's like anything in life. If you wind up graduating from high school, the day that you walk across that stage to get your diploma represents all you put into it to try to get there. If you decided young in life that you want to be a good student, you want to make something of yourself, and school is a focus, isn't it? Right? You're not going to get far without learning. And I think Chris just said something really important, and that is who you associate with. Chris also said a minute ago that there are 7 billion people on the planet. It's hard to relate to. It's almost like talking about how many billions of stars there are in the universe. 7 billion people, well, how does that affect us? We're just 40 people in a room here tonight, and there are just so many people on this street, in this mission. But the truth is, you have choices. So you come across people who don't care much. They don't care what they make of their lives. They're not polite to other people. They don't dream of doing important and positive things. Walk away. Just say, there are 7 billion people. I don't like this one. I'm going to find somebody who's thinking good thoughts and being positive. Am I right? And as soon as you start making people around you, that circle, who think positive like you do, you're going to go up and up and up, because it's not just you. You all want to do it together. And in my training, I couldn't do it by myself. Bonnie, for all the hours, 12 hours one day, I'm not in shape yet. That night, Bonnie can tell you, I would lie on the bathroom floor in the fetal position, so exhausted, vomiting, and too tired to get up and get over to the bed. The next day, because we said we needed it, you put in the time, you do 13 hours. The next day you do 14 hours, and after a year, the body and the mind has come strong enough to give this a try. But you know what I remember now? It's been 2 years and 8 months since that swim, the successful swim. I don't so much remember the moment on the beach. I remember all the training, because that's what made the success of the swim happen. It's what you put in every day. Then one day you're walking across your high school stage and getting your diploma. But it's because tonight you studied, and tomorrow you did your coursework, and you were polite to your teachers, and you were curious, and then you get that diploma, and then you're going to be going to college. You kids are going to be going to college. You are. Believe it.
New York, Manhattan, was that one of your first big swims about 40 years ago?
It was. I was already a marathon swimmer. You know, the word marathon means long distance, right? Like often people say life is a marathon. You guys are young. I'm 66 years old right now, so I'm closer to the end than the beginning. You guys are closer to the beginning and the end, but it's a marathon. It's a long stretch, and what you're doing at your ages is going to set the tone for what happens later. New York is the most exciting city in the world, and that comes from speaking for two people who spend a lot of time there. Christopher grew up there. I've spent 30 years in Manhattan, and I had already been a marathon swimmer. I'd swum across Lake Ontario and some other places, the Bay of Naples in Italy. The Earth, if we were to look at the Earth, you know, they call it a blue jewel of a planet. When astronauts go to outer space and they look back, they don't see a green planet or a gray planet or a white planet. They see a blue planet, and it's because it's an ocean. 4/5, almost all of our planet is ocean. And to me, it was a magic, it was awe. I'm not a religious person, but I could feel whatever anybody else's interpretation of God is out in that blue jewel of an ocean that I got to swim across. And Manhattan was the first. I had swum many swims, but I came back after the summer of doing the swims, and a friend of mine said, "Why are you going to Italy and Argentina and Canada? This is the most famous island in the world, Manhattan Island, New York City. Why don't you swim around that?" And I said, "Yeah, why don't I?" And I swam around it, and it was a big deal. I went down to a boat basin, you know, where a bunch of yachts were parked. To get a boat to go with me, you got to have a boat. A boat sets the navigation. Your people are on your boat who give you food and stuff. And I found a rich guy at the end of this boat over here. I was 25 years old, and I stood in front of him, and I said, "Hey, my name's Diana Nyad, and I'm going to be the first woman to swim around Manhattan Island. I'm going to go on Tuesday. You want to come with me with your boat? It's going to be a great adventure." And he would say, "No, and I'm going to have you thrown off the dock in 5 minutes if you don't get going." And then I said the same speech to this guy, and this guy, and this woman, and this guy. And finally, the last boat over here wasn't a big fancy yacht. It was a broken down old fishing boat. And the guy's dog, his ribs were showing a little bit because he hadn't been fed in a while. And his pants were old and stained. I gave him my speech, and he said, "Now, what day was that you were thinking about doing that?" I said, "Tuesday." He said, "You know, I got a vet appointment for my dog at 5 o'clock. So can you finish by 5? I said, "Oh, yeah, sure." I had no idea. And that day, when we were swimming around, all of a sudden it got to be a big deal. In the middle of the day, I'm going down the Hudson River, and the tugboats are honking. People are taking off work to come down and stand by the railing and yell for me. And I came over to the side of the boat. You're never allowed to touch the boat, but you come over to the side, like Bonnie would give me drinks. I came over to the side of the boat to get my drinks and keep going. And Ed, I said, "You know, I don't think we're going to make 5 o'clock. We're not going to make the vet appointment." He said, "The New York Times was just on this boat interviewing me. This is the greatest day of my life. I don't care about the vet appointment anymore." So it was as a New Yorker especially, it was a grand day to swim around Manhattan. It was October 6th. It was bright sunshine. The Hudson River, I could see the Statue of Liberty all the way down. And I'll always remember that swim. Like when I go to New York and the plane lands, when they dip the wing and I see the Hudson River, I go back to that day. It was a wonderful day.
Awesome. What about this place? Maui.
Maui, I was just there last week. You know, are you guys good at geography? Like, do you know what the big oceans of the world are? Any of the kids, any of the students, tell me, like, what? Just name 3 of the big oceans of the world. Anybody? Yes? Pacific Ocean. And that is where the Hawaiian Islands are. What's another one?
Atlantic.
The Atlantic, which is between the United States and Europe, on that side of the world. And just, who knows the third ocean? Anybody know one? Well, for instance, there's the Indian Ocean, which is over between India and Africa. But Hawaii is right in the center of the Pacific Ocean. And right up here, the biggest waves in the world, they come up to 60, 80, and occasionally 90 feet. What happens is, way up north and west of there is Russia. And there are tectonic plates. You know, the whole earth, underneath the oceans, there are plates of earth and rock that aren't always even. That's why we have earthquakes. When they're underneath, they crash together, and then we feel the tremble. Well, when those tectonic plates crash up there near Russia, those waves start traveling. And this island, of all the Hawaiian islands, this one gets the huge waves up at the top there that are 60 feet tall. You'd imagine a surfer on a little board just with his or her small body getting onto a wave that's 60 feet high and coming down the face of it this way. So that's what that island is particularly famous for. But, you know, you're lucky if you get to travel the world. I know you guys haven't had that experience yet, but you will. You will graduate from high school, you will go to college, and you will travel. And it's going to be a wonderful life, believe me.
I love this woman.
Ah, this is Cuba. That's the Cuban flag. Cuba's an island 100 miles south of Florida. It's the closest neighbor we have that isn't actually adjoining. And Mexico is attached to the United States, and Canada is attached. But this is our closest foreign neighbor. And in 1959, they had a revolution. They had their reasons, and many Cubans escaped quickly, didn't want to be part of that revolution. But to me, it's a magical place. I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, near Miami, right across the way from that island. I was filled with the mystique of Cuba, their architecture, their athletes, their music, the beauty of the island. But it has become over the years very poor. They turned toward communism, and they have very little. They have very little food to eat, very little cooking oil to use. So now, after all these years, their country and our country have decided to make baby steps to come back together and be friends again so that we can travel there, they can travel here. It's not done yet, but the first steps are being made. But we are very, my team, my Cuba swim team, are very passionate about the Cuban people. You know, the night before we left for Cuba, I couldn't sleep. I was afraid, I was excited. I went to a CVS all-night drugstore. And there was only one other guy in the store. This was in Key West, Florida, the night before we flew over to Havana to start the swim. And this Cuban was in the store. He was the only other person in the store. And he came up to me and he said, "I know what you're doing, and it means a lot to you. I can see your heart's in your throat." And I said, "It does. To me, it's like it's not just an athletic event, it's a moment of living, being everything we can be, trying something that no one's ever done in history, and connecting the Cuban people with the American people. It's everything." And he took out his wallet, and he had a $2 bill. You guys ever seen a $2 bill? Have you?
Yeah.
You know what it means? What does it mean? It means good luck. Americans think a $2 bill means good luck. So this guy says to me, the night my family escaped from Cuba, and you know, many people have tried to escape across that same body of water that my team and I swam. They call it the Cuban graveyard. There are many Cubans who didn't make it, and they're at the bottom of that ocean. And he said, when I came down to the beach, that night we were going to escape, my family, it was a windy night. The wind was whipping, the waves were big, and I saw this dilapidated, broken down raft. And I thought, that raft isn't even going to make it across the waves of the shore, much less go 100 miles. We're going to be like all the other people we've read about. We're going to die in the Cuban graveyard. And his grandmother came down to the beach. He was 7 years old, and she counted him as her favorite. And she pulled him to the side and she said, I'm not going. I'm too old. This is my country. But an American gave me this $2 bill once. It means good luck. And she put it inside his shirt, and she said, this bill is going to help you get across and live through this crossing and help you make a new life in America, and we may never see each other again. Now he had tears in his eyes, this guy in the drugstore. I had tears in my eyes, and he said, she said I need to give it to somebody who needs it. And she gave it to me. And I'm going to give it to somebody who really needs it someday. But to me, that $2 bill represents the Cuban people. You know, I've had a chance to meet President Obama now twice, and I very much admire that man. He works on our behalf every day to make this a better world and a better country. And he said to me that our swim meant something toward reconnecting our two countries again. How could I be more proud than that?
Excellent, Nyad.
Well, you know, when you have talents, you have to flaunt them. Okay. And just as a moment aside, since we're talking about talents, this is my song. Who knows what the name of that song is? It's called Revelry. And in the Army, they blow it in the morning at sunrise because it means get up. Don't miss out on your life. Don't miss the sunrise. And that's my philosophy of life. You might not succeed. You might have a lot of down times, but get up and try. And I got invited to be on Dancing with the Stars, you know, which is a big dancing program. I was totally overconfident. I thought, I dance, I do the salsa, I do the merengue. I was thrown off immediately. I was the first one to be thrown off. But this is my partner, Henry Bialikoff. He's a wonderful teacher, and at least for 1 month, I got to practice. I got to learn the cha-cha, and I got to learn the tango. And this was our night of doing the cha-cha. And it was a humiliating experience in a lot of ways because I was thrown off right away. But you know what? I'm glad I did it. As I said with this, get up and try. I got up and tried.
Yeah.
I drove Diane and Bonnie here. She's talking about, she bought her, is it called a bugle?
It's called a bugle.
Yeah, I was like, what is that? I thought it was like a dog. A beagle? I was like, I bought my beagle.
Yeah, I brought my beagle.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Now I know.
Well, you know, I don't know if you guys are into sports, but what's your name again? You. Kevin. So I know Kevin plays basketball, and he's into basketball. He knows the Lakers. You probably know Steph Curry then too, right? You know, a lot of athletes are, the best athletes in the world are talented. They're born to do what they do. This guy is. But he believes in hard work too. And he believes in family, and he believes in team. And I just think this is one of our heroic athletes today. He's not just a superstar who can leap, who can make unbelievable shots. He's all that. He's probably going to be one of the best in our lifetime. But more than that, he's a team player. He's always shouting out to his teammates. So he just won the MVP, the most valuable player of professional basketball for the whole year. He was the best there is, but he stopped to talk about his teammates, his wife, his family, and those are values that I really admire in athletes. I'm a public speaker. I go around the world talking to groups like yourself and large groups. I've spoken in front of 10,000 people at one time. And I like to tell stories, as you can tell tonight, like my father in the dictionary and, stories of Cuba, the $2 bill. And when you tell stories, you try to make an arc. You try to go somewhere. It's not just like, hey, and another thing happened. Oh, I forgot to tell you, there's another story. You piece them together. I don't do many things in life well. There are many things in life I don't do well. Many things. But I do tell a story. And storytelling is important. I love sitting around and hearing from a lot of you kids tonight and your particular stories. I'd like to do more of that tonight before we have to leave each other. But I think there's an art, just like people make television programs, people make music. I think there's an art to standing up for an hour and a half, and taking a string of stories and taking you visually. Like maybe when I'm telling you the story of the guy on the Cuban beach and his grandmother comes down, you picture it. You picture that he's there. It's a windy night. He's afraid. He's a little boy. His grandmother isn't going with him. And now he's got this $2 bill. It's his hope. And he never sees her again. But he has that bill. But she said, give it to somebody. And so he did. And now that person has got to give it to somebody else. There's power to storytelling. There are lessons, life lessons to them. So there's a group called TED. And now I'm going to be embarrassed. I think it was started in the 1960s. It's called for technology, education, and what's the
Design.
D? What?
Design.
Design. So it's a conference of speakers. So 50 people show up. They only get 15 minutes each. It's hard to talk in only 15 minutes if you have a big point to make. But everybody only gets 15 minutes, and you sit there for 2 or 3 days and listen to all these wonderful people who have done incredible things in the world talk for 15 minutes each. And they all come from different walks of life. So TED is a magical speakers forum, and I do speak for all different kinds of groups, but I've been very lucky to be on the TED stage a number of times.
And all this, by the way, is online. You can just go to YouTube and literally type in Diana Nyad TED, or go to TED.com, TED.com, and you'll see some of the most inspiring people
Yep.
from all around the world.
Yeah.
So whenever you're bored, curious, nervous, doubtful, sad, depressed, go on this website because they're all free. They're free places for you to get inspiration. That's where I first learned about Diana, on the TED Talks.
Oh, listen to this. This was the first TED Talk I ever heard. So, I want to listen to everybody. I do my thing, and people appreciate it, and they feel something for it, and then I want to get something out of the time I'm there, so I go and listen to all the speakers. So the very first TED speech I give, I listen to. Now, don't forget, it's only 15 minutes. I don't care if you won the Nobel Prize, you are only going to get 15 minutes. So, guy comes out, I forget his name, but he's Danish. He's a scientist. And he says that when he was a kid, his brother, I think he was about age 8, had a diving accident and became a quadriplegic. And meaning he was paralyzed from the neck down. And he said, as a kid, when I get to be an adult, I'm going to do something for the paralyzed. I'm going to do something for people who have lost the use of their full bodies. And he's been telling us that story now for about 2 minutes, okay? We get it. He was dedicated to this. Now a guy comes rolling out in a wheelchair. Turns out he's 24 years old, and he says, I was like that guy's brother. I had a diving accident when I was a kid. I was only 7 years old, and I broke my back. Now, his injury was a little bit lower on the spine, so he didn't become a quadriplegic and lose almost all of his body. He became a paraplegic, meaning he was paralyzed from the waist down. But he's been in this wheelchair since he was 7 years old. And he says, you know what? I've had to go through all the stages people talk about: anger, sad, denial, but I'm 24 now. I want to live a life. So I don't want to spend all my days crying about what I've been through. I want to do what I can do instead of crying about what I can't do. But he said, you know the one thing that pisses me off? Every day, I'm 6'3". That's how long my legs have grown. But I don't feel 6'3" because I'm sitting in this chair. Everybody I look at, I'm looking up at their faces like this. I'm seeing the bottom of their nostrils. I'm shaking hands like this. And it pisses me off. And now we're in the audience. We're on his side. We're going like, yeah, we're pissed off now. We're all with him. And now he's about like 8 minutes now through the 15, the two of them together. Now that Danish guy comes back on and he says, all my life, all my career, I've been working on these computerized crutches. And he starts putting them on, this guy. He starts lifting up the leg and putting on the foot brace and strapping in the knees. And he says, okay, you might be a little unsteady, but I'm here to catch you. I have designed this computer, these legs, that when you press them together, they understand the computerized crutches, the exact ergodynamics of what it takes to stand up. Like we don't think about it, right? We don't think about standing up. As to where the feet contract and when the buttocks come into play, we just stand up. So he pressed it, and the computerized crutches took this guy's body, and he went like this, and he stood up, and he was 6'3". And we cried, and we applauded, and now those crutches are going to come onto the open market, if I'm not mistaken, in 2018 for about $30,000. Now that sounds like crazy? Not really. I thought they were going to cost $1 million. People for the price of a medium-sized car who have lost the use of their legs are going to be able to walk to the bathroom and pee and walk down the street to get something to eat. It's a miracle. So a lot of the TED speeches are like that. They're just incredible people doing incredible things in the world, and I've been so lucky to be part of the TED crowd.
I was reading about Mother's Day on your Facebook ad.
Oh my God. You know, Mother's Day was a couple of weeks ago, and I got tripping out on the internet reading about animal mothers in the world and what they do with their children. But this was the oddest one. The mother octopus lays 56,000 eggs, and every single time when the eggs hatch, only two, one male and one female, live to adulthood. Never 4, never 7, 2 out of 56,000 make it to adulthood. But that mother octopus, when she lays her eggs, they're all sort of, it seemed to me like glommed onto each other. It's like a big sort of messy, gooey, pack of these little white eggs. And what she does is she waves her arms for 53 months, okay? So that's 2 years and 3 months, right? 2 years and 4 months. She waves her arms like this because partly she's keeping predators away from coming in and eating those eggs, and partly she is distributing air. She's aerating, so this fresh water comes over, and I don't mean fresh as in not salt, but new water comes over the eggs, and it delivers oxygen to these eggs so that they're healthy and they can eventually hatch. She can't go out and hunt for herself to eat, and she starts to die. They're usually this rust color, and during that 2 years plus that she's doing that for these eggs, she starts to become a grayish color because she's losing her life. She can't hunt, and at some point she literally eats one of her own arms. Talk about the sacrifice. One person wrote me on Facebook, being an octopus sucks. Anyway, I was reading about lion cubs and giraffes and all these things, but this was the story. And then as soon as the eggs hatch, she dies. So it's what a life, huh? What a life. Oprah. She's like the people's person. One time, someone asked her why she didn't run for president. Hillary Clinton may be our first woman president, but people have said, Oprah, why don't you run for president? People will vote for you right away. And she said, I think I can do more good outside of politics, and all the good that you just you just articulated so well. That's what she has done. She's listened to people, and she's given a lot of people who would never have a voice a chance to express themselves. Yeah, fantastic. So I got to be on her show. It's called Super Soul Sunday. It's on Sundays, and it's a lot about religion. And I'm not religious, but it got to a point of, do you still want to do right by this world? Do you still respect your neighbor? You know, because it doesn't matter what religion we come from or no religion, we can all get to the same place of living a good life. So I admire Oprah quite a bit. Yeah, you know what? It wasn't really about swimming. It sounds like it was. If you tell the story, it's all about sports and adventure and extreme, but it's really more about passion. It's really more about doing something so difficult that you would have to do it to the nth degree. Do you know what that means, everybody? The nth degree means there's nothing left more to give. And when you give like that, you have no regrets. You know, that's all I want. When I get to the end of my life, I want that last day, when that last breath I take, I want to say, I have no regrets. Life is short. You don't believe it because you're so young, but it is. It goes by. I'm 66. I can blink I was 25. And now I'm 66, and what will I live to? 86, 96? I still have a lot of youth. I still have a lot of vitality, a lot of things I want to do. Bonnie and I are getting something together now called Everwalk. We're going to walk big distances around America, like LA to San Diego, New York City to Boston. Take 2 or 3 weeks and walk with thousands of people. So I got a lot of things I still want to do, but the only thing I care about is that last day that I take a breath on this earth. I want to say, at least everything I did to the nth degree, you know? And that's what that swim was. That swim was an emblem. It was a symbol. It was a metaphor, as I started this conversation, of living large, not living small. And from what I just heard, every single one of you students, you've got big dreams. You don't want to live small. You want to live large. And I just, you know, I took it all in. When I look in your eyes, I believe you're going to be that journalist. You're going to be that photojournalist. You know? You're gonna follow that life path that you've set out for yourselves. I'm so impressed with you guys. It's been my honor to be with you. It truly has.
There. I mean, I just wanted to comment on Bonnie. I had a picture of Bonnie. Like, what do you think you've learned from Bonnie? 'Cause she's been there with you for 40 plus years.
Bonnie is the person, I've been very lucky. I've met a lot of remarkable people, including yourselves tonight. Whenever you go out in the world, you know, it's an amazing experience to look in somebody's eyes and hear their thoughts and their feelings. And Bonnie is the person in my life who is most connected to the moment. She wakes up every day and she is in the present, in reality. She's not looking back to complain about the past and cry over what happened that didn't quite work out well. She's not wasting her time on fantasies of things that aren't real. She's in the moment. She is with her dog, her friend, her work, whatever it is. She takes it in like it's like she is the luckiest person alive. She's on a high to be alive, and it's a wonderful thing to be around.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's thank Diana for coming tonight.
Thank you all.
Our tradition is actually to take a picture, so if Diana and Bonnie wouldn't mind, if you were to sit here, we're all going to surround them, and then we're going to eat. She has to leave unless she wants to stay a little bit longer, then we're going to have someone sing a song. But if we could all come up here for a picture with Diana and Bonnie, please.
Yeah, please.